Hey everyone, so we just had maybe the most insane One Piece chapter of all time. At the very least, this is by far, without a doubt, the most information-packed One Piece chapter that we have ever gotten, at least in regards to the general lore of the One Piece world. This chapter both rewrites a lot of our previous knowledge and also just contextualizes a lot of the pieces that weren't adding up. But before we get any further, one very important thing I want to tell you all here is that the translation that is currently out and is the popular translation that most people are reading is apparently not that accurate. So before you start snowballing with crazy theories and everything like that, I think it's important to take a step back, just because a lot of what we are reading right now may not actually be the correct version of wordings. And with this chapter in particular, the translations are just very, very important, just because the religious text is already written in some sort of a more poetic format with a bit more metaphor used, and so taking too much creative liberties with this translation can result in the whole meaning changing entirely. I still like the popular translation site that most of us use, it's just that in this case, apparently, things were not as accurate as they usually are. The Twitter user Jasser actually gave me a very in-depth breakdown of a more accurate translation, and you may find that this translation is also more consistent with other translations that have been floating around before the site put out their translation. I'm just going to quickly read that here. So in the first world, there is flame in the land. Man/people succumbs to desire, touches the forbidden sun, the slave wishes, the sun god appears, the land god is angered. Together with the infernal serpent/snake, the world is wrapped/covered in death and darkness. They will never meet again. In the second world, there is breath in the nothingness. The force god sent out a devils. The sun is only spreading the embers of war. The half-moon people saw a dream. The moon people saw a dream. Man killed the sun and became god. The sea god became fierce/unruly/rough/violent. They will never meet again. And finally, the third world, there is a void in the chaos. The troubled/helpless/troublesome remnants/leftovers, remembering the promised day, listen to the voices of the moon fragments. The sun god dances, laughs, leading the world to its end. The sun returns, a new morning will come, they will surely meet. So this does change the meaning of a lot of the passages. I would wait till the official translation comes out, or honestly, I would even wait till that Sandman account on Twitter comes out with his own version of translations to really have the final, definite version of what everything means. But Jasser is a very well-respected translator. Shouts to him, you can go check out his account on Twitter. But I really appreciate him often coming through and giving me more accurate translations, and this time I was able to share it with you all. So that being said, I am going to touch upon everything that we saw in the mural and the texts that we got and the true history in general, but the reality is I have a gigantic video that I am saving that the majority of this will be broken down in, coming out next Tuesday. Literally a truly very, very, very comprehensive video. So I'm just going to touch on a few things here, but we're not going to get into the full nitty-gritty of it. The good thing is that the mural itself is very easy to decipher for the most part, wherein we can recognize a lot of what is happening there. We see obviously Nika, we see Minx, the Mermaid Princess, Tontatas, giants, all these various races in a great war. We can see the ship Noah. We can see a lot of things in this image that are easily identifiable, and that feels good because so much of what we're getting here fits in very neatly with prior information that we had in One Piece, and that's what's so amazing, which is it feels like this whole story we've been getting, there's like a giant tapestry, right, and we've been getting to see little bits and pieces of what the full truth is, and now we're finally getting a version of the answer, a version of an image where we can see how everything clicks together, but not an in-depth explanation. And just looking at it, we can still tell that there's still some things that we don't fully understand, like how does this fit together with that, and most importantly with the text that we're getting, Oda made a very smart choice here, which is that this is kind of like the reading of the true history before the true history. It's almost like a preview of the true history, because the best way to do a preview of the true history, to really tease the reader and show that everything is coming together and is connected and getting us really excited, but at the same time not giving away too much, is doing it through a religious text, wherein things are written in a more poetic, symbolic style of speech, and passages are kept very short, because these are myths passed down from ancient times. So some things click into place, and then some things we're still itching to find out the actual details behind them. And that's why I'm saying it's kind of a preview to reading the true history that Robin will get to decipher at Laugh Tale, because when Robin gets to read the true history at Laugh Tale, we will finally get a literal beat-by-beat breakdown of what exactly happened in the Void Century War at the end of the Second World, and likely at the climax climax of the First World. And we will likely get more clarification on the prophecies about what will happen at the final war of the Third World that is coming up around the corner. I wouldn't be surprised if when Robin is deciphering the true history with the Second World and everything like that, that is actually when we segue to a Joy Boy flashback and get it literally displayed for us. So this is kind of a preview of a flashback that we really, really need to get. And what this whole chapter really hammered in for me is just how insanely deep One Piece lore is, because I thought that it was a fairly densely, historically thought out story, even back when it really just went back to the Roger Pirates era, when we were trying to figure out, okay, what was the history behind the Great Pirate era? What was going on back then? What was this One Piece that Roger created? And then slowly, as we get to Enies Lobby Water 7, we begin to learn about this greater history about the ancient kingdom that goes back hundreds of years, 800 years even. And now we're getting to a point where we're learning that no, this is like much grander than that. This isn't just an 800-year thing. This is a cycle since the dawn of mankind, practically. It's a cycle that's repeated and repeated throughout history, and it's leading towards one final creation of a truly idealized world that history had to cycle through multiple times to finally get to. One Piece is just so insanely thought out, and this deserves to be remembered as one of the most iconic chapters of One Piece history. I don't think that there's ever been a One Piece chapter that has ever, at least in my time doing this YouTube channel, making theories or anything like that, and all that, I don't think there's ever been a chapter that has spawned this much thought, this much discourse, and this much theory crafting, and I am very, very excited to share what I believe everything actually fits together to reveal in this Tuesday's video. So watch out for that. But first, we have the most beautiful travel posters we've ever made for you all this January. This month, you can get a fantastic watercolor imagining of Fishman Island, as well as Sabaody Archipelago, Weatheria, and Elbaf Village from the Sun Realm. The posters are printed on matte paper, hand-cut by the artist himself, and you can get all 4 together for 50% off each poster. You can also still get the deluxe package if you want to appear on my streams, and in that case, you can choose any poster from 2024 as well. So if you want Fishman Island, Sabaody, Weatheria, and Elbaf Village for your walls, just hit the link in the description below. All posters from 2024 will also be available in the complete original set bundle. So the true history stuff aside, let's just talk about the chapter in general, because ordinarily the main highlight of this chapter would be off the Shamrock and Shanks information that we got. So, Shamrock, as we can tell, is an asshole. He just is, that was always going to happen. He's an evil celestial dragon through and through. We did get new information about Shanks, so Loki does separately still hate Shanks, and now he hates Shamrock as well. And most importantly, Shanks did apparently come up to Marie Joie once at one point in its life. So some people still speculate that Shanks is the one who came up and talked to the Gorosei. I feel like that's very unlikely personally, just because, again, a lot of the signifiers from that chapter that indicated that this may not have been Shanks, such as the way the Gorosei addressed him, and the lack of the scar on Shanks' face, strongly indicate that this was more likely to have been Shamrock. As well as the fact that, as we've seen from Doflamingo's story, once you've chosen to live life as a pirate and abandon any Celestial Dragon status, you're not really welcome back to Marie Joie. So I imagine whatever point Shanks went back up to Marie Joie was likely much earlier in his younger days, where the Celestial Dragons would still have given him some leeway to come up and maybe try and live there again. Now, it seems like a Shamrock-Loki confrontation has been set up for down the road. It's yet to be seen if Loki will actually get his revenge, but what we do get to see is a bit of Shamrock's abilities, and Shamrock has a sword that has eaten a mythical Zoan fruit. I think that's pretty cool. I think it reflects kind of the Celestial Dragon mentality of just letting the sword do his bidding and taking care of things that he views as beneath him, but I imagine Shamrock himself is also likely still very, very powerful. I do wonder if that Kerberos Zoan has some sort of ability that is important for Shamrock in general, because otherwise, at the end of the day, while it's cool to have a sword that can work on its own, it is just, it does just seem to be a strong dog-type Zoan, so the mythical Zoan's special abilities are what I'm more interested in here. Though I suppose you could argue that the Cerberus' ability to split up is maybe what its special ability is in this case. Now, Shamrock and Gunko leave, but what's interesting is that they're about to call in a third party. I still wonder if we will get to see a confrontation between them, Luffy, Zoro, and Nami. Because a quick thought I just had is that I thought obviously it would be cool to see Luffy and Shamrock interact and maybe go at it a little bit. But at the same time, a lot of people are talking about Zoro versus Gunko. I feel like Gunko and Nami would be an interesting little interaction matchup if that's a fight that's supposed to happen whatsoever. Because if you think about it, Gunko's ability, Arrows, the ability to basically decide the direction, like a predetermined course for all of her attacks, that has a sort of theme that fits up very well against a navigator like Nami. So if the guy that Shamrock calls in is also a swordsman, then we could see Shamrock, this new dude, and Gunko versus Luffy, Zoro, and Nami, I still hope that we get some sort of confrontation like that, but it does seem like they might be dipping out of there a little bit early. And on the Luffy, Zoro, and Nami front, I'm happy that we are getting to see some things that prompt actual emotional reactions from Luffy, like genuine ones. Like, Luffy is bothered at the idea of Shanks being painted out as a bad guy. I think that's very, very important because, as you know, the one thing that I want more of out of Luffy in the New World in general is just things that actually affect him and bring out the true character of who he is and the things that he cares about and struggles with personally. We used to get that all the time pre-time skip. I would genuinely say that only Whole Cake Island is the only arc that actually really got to Luffy personally, emotionally, for extended segments of it. So an arc like Elbaf that is largely going to be about Shanks, Luffy's mentor, I think that would be amazing. I also like that Luffy draws a parallel between Shanks to Bellemere. Even though he gets Bellemere's name wrong, I kind of don't like that because it shows a lack of care on Luffy's end. And Luffy does usually genuinely care quite a bit about the things that are important to the Straw Hats individually. Like, Luffy remembered Saul and the story of Saul. I think it's odd that he wouldn't remember Bellemere, when Bellemere is likely significantly more important to Nami than Saul was to Robin. So sometimes Oda does certain things that I feel like are a little bit out of character for the Straw Hats just for the sake of a joke, or he plays their gags up a little bit too much just for the sake of a joke, when it's like, maybe this one shouldn't have been a joke. But I do like a reference again to Bellemere. I do like that Luffy cares so much about Shanks, and I still really enjoy seeing this trio distilled and together again. And you know what it does? It frees up more time for us to get to focus on the other Straw Hats. This is the most important moment that Franky has had since Enies Lobby. Franky getting to be the guy that is exploring the Adam Tree and actually referencing things from his origin of buying wood from the Adam Tree to make his dream ship, and actually talking about that sort of thing makes him finally feel like a real character again, and not just this dude who makes cyborg jokes in the background and yells super all the time. And most importantly, that little trek through the Adam Tree allowed us to get to this mural drawing, which is so incredibly important. I would never have in a million years guessed that Oda would pick Franky to be the Straw Hat that gets to stand in front of this mural and have it revealed to us for the first time, but I am all for it, especially because it's not random. It fits with what Franky's storyline would be at this moment on this island. He cares about the Adam Tree. He's going to be most invested in the Adam Tree. And then same thing with Robin. She's getting to read out this religious text because Oda's put Robin in a context where Robin can be Robin, and with a character that she can actually bounce off and we can get really good interactions with. So I have tremendous hopes for the Straw Hats in this arc. I really, really like this chapter from start to finish. Even without the final pages, it would have been a great chapter, but with the final pages, it's like an 11, 12 out of 10 chapter. And finally, we have a voice of the people from my top tier of patrons. So Trash Wizard says, Blackbeard has to be one of those ancient gods on the mural. So by that, I'm assuming that you mean that Blackbeard likely has the fruit of one of those ancient gods on the mural, since Blackbeard himself literally wouldn't be that. I do believe that Blackbeard is set to get one final Zoan, and I do believe that it's a Zoan that has to be instrumental to certain aspects of what's going to happen in the final war. I think that it's going to be an important fruit of legend. It likely will not be another Nika fruit at this point, although I've gone back and forth on that, because we're still trying to figure out what that special fruit is that Loki might have eaten, the special fruit that Blackbeard would have eaten. But this mural does give new god figures to us that may be significant enough that it makes sense that Blackbeard could have eaten one of their fruits. However, how literal those concepts of the gods are, that is something that I will delve into further in this Tuesday's video, so definitely watch out for that. But yes, I do believe that Blackbeard has a very, very, very important role to play in all of this. So with that, I will talk to you all later.